Good afternoon, everybody. It looks to me like we have everybody here, but if you look like you're missing someone, can you let me know? All right, we've been given the message. We can go ahead and start. Let's call the case of Marks versus Sonny's Rooftop Bar. I'm Judge Maureen Jarosak. I believe my other two scoring judges have already muted and turned their cameras off because I don't see you on. These should remain off until the trial is over, when we'll be allowed to make some comments. Can the attorneys make their appearances, please?
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is William Mueller, and today, along with my co-counsel, Mr. Julian McGaugh, we represent the plaintiff, Ethel Marks.
Thank you. And the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. My name is Sabra Ahmed, and I, along with my second chair, Aubrey Klein,
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
represent the defendant, Sonny's Rooftop Bar.
Thank you. Counsel, do we have any preliminary issues?
The plaintiff has a few, Your Honor. Firstly, we'd like to invoke Rules 615 and 603, which call for the constructive sequestration and swearing in of witnesses, respectively.
That's fine.
Secondly, Your Honor, we'd like to draw the court's attention to Stipulation 11, which states that Exhibits 1, 22, and 23 are pre-admitted and may be used at any time. And lastly, Your Honor, we'd like to ask for your permission to display Exhibit 2 in our opening statement. It's a photo of the deceased in today's case, and we have a good faith belief that it's going to be introduced into evidence on our very first witness.
Does the defense have any problem with Exhibit 2?
No, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
And with that, Your Honor, the plaintiff is ready to go.
All right, I think we're ready for opening statements.
Your Honor, if I may, I do have a housekeeping matter I'd like to address.
I apologize. Please go ahead.
Are we allowed, we'd like to know Your Honor's preference with screen sharing. Shall we screen share? Do we need to state when we're going to screen share, or maybe just simply screen share?
Are you asking me if you should have my permission to post an exhibit?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, please ask. Anything further? Plaintiff, you can proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court, members of the jury. They knew she was drunk, but they kept serving drinks. It's a Sunday night back in March of 2019 at a bar over in West Los Angeles. A young woman stumbles out of the bar and into the parking lot, barely able to walk in a straight line. For the last 3 hours, she'd been served drink after drink after drink by the defendant, Sonny's Rooftop Bar. She's drunk. She gets into her car, turns onto the highway, but within minutes, her car is at the bottom of a ravine. She's dead. Members of the jury, the woman that died that night is the woman in this photo, Jessica Marks. Ms. Marks's death was a tragedy. She was only 19. She had her whole life ahead of her. But what's most tragic about what happened to Miss Marks is that it could have been prevented if not for the actions of the defendant, Sonny's Rooftop Bar. The evidence will show that Sonny's Rooftop Bar knew Jessica Marks was drunk, that they kept serving her drinks, and that caused her to crash. It's why we brought a claim of wrongful death against the defendant. Now, we have the burden of proving by a preponderance of the evidence, meaning more likely than not, that Sonny's Rooftop Bar served Jessica Marks when she was obviously intoxicated, and that their decision to serve her played a substantial role in causing her death. We're going to meet our burden. We're going to meet our burden by proving 3 simple facts. Let's go through them one at a time. Fact number 1, Jessica Marks was intoxicated at the bar. We're going to call Morgan Levin, a friend of Jessica's that was with her at the bar. She'll tell you that the whole night, Jessica was displaying all the classic signs of intoxication. Bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, stumbling around. But you won't just have to take Mr. Levin's word for it. We're going to show you a video from that night. A video taken of Jessica Marks where you'll see she was obviously intoxicated. Which brings us to fact number 2. The defendant saw that Jessica Marks was intoxicated. For this, we're going to ask you to listen to the bartender's own words. Towards the end of the night, as Jessica Marks had more and more drinks, and as her intoxication became more and more obvious, the bartenders acknowledged it. She was stumbling around the bar. They looked to her and said, "We might need to cut this one off." But they didn't. And that brings us to fact number 3. Despite knowing that Jessica Marks was drunk, the bartenders kept serving her drinks. The evidence will show that even after they saw how she was acting, even after they admitted that they needed to cut her off, even though they knew she was drunk, they kept serving drinks. It's as simple as that. They knew she was drunk, they kept serving drinks, and that caused her to crash. That's why at the end of today's trial, I'll come before you again and ask you to find them liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Defense, how about your opening?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, 4 fatal choices. It took 4 fatal choices for Jessica Marks to lose her life. On the night of March 24th, 2019, Jessica Marks was sitting in her Airbnb. She was underage and she drank a couple glasses of wine. She made the first fatal choice to drink that night. Then Jessica Marks left her Airbnb, went to her car, and made the second fatal choice to drive to Sonny's Rooftop Bar, even when she was intoxicated. Then, as Miss Marks entered Sonny's Rooftop Bar, she ordered not 1, not 2, but 6 additional drinks there. Made a third fatal choice to drink. As it was time for Miss Marks to leave, she went to her car for the last time, was asked by her friend Morgan Levin to reconsider driving while she was drunk. Miss Marks responded by saying, "I've handled big nights like this before." Miss Marks made the fourth and final choice to drive home while she was drunk. She never made it to her destination. Instead, Miss Marks got into a car crash and died that night. Although Ms. Marks consciously made 4 fatal decisions that led to her death, doesn't take away from the fact that her death was a tragedy and that she was responsible and conscious when making her decisions. But members of the jury, you ultimately still have to decide who is responsible for Ms. Marks' death, even if it includes herself. The plaintiff has a burden of proof to prove to you by preponderance of the evidence 3 things. 1, that Jessica Marks was a minor on March 24th, 2019. 2, Jessica Marks showed signs of obvious intoxication. And 3, the alcohol Jessica Marks was served that night was a substantial factor in her death. We too, as a defense, have introduced a burden of proof. Our burden of proving is that Jessica Marks' death was in part or in whole caused by her own negligence. We must prove to you that by preponderance of the evidence. Now, throughout today's trial, you will hear testimony from Sonny Mehta, the owner of Sonny's Rooftop Bar. He'll tell you that he served Miss Marks that night and that he never saw any signs of intoxication. Mr. Mehta will tell you that he never saw Miss Marks have bloodshot eyes, lose her balance, or that she stumbled. He'll tell you that if Miss Marks exhibited any of these signs, he would have cut her off. Members of the jury, you will see by the end of today's trial that Miss Marks was conscious when she made her 4 fatal decisions on the night of March 24th, 2019. And that ultimately cost her her life. That's why I'll come before you at the end of today's trial and ask that you find Sonny's Rooftop Bar not liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. I would suggest now that we switch to gallery view on your Zoom so that we'll be able to see both the witness and the examining attorney. Would the plaintiff like to call their first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Morgan Levin to the stand.
Morgan Levin.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, please do.
Good afternoon, Mr. Levin.
Good afternoon, sir.
Please introduce yourself to the members of the jury.
My name is Morgan Levin.
What do you do for a living?
Oh, I don't work. I'm actually a student at UCLA.
What do you study?
I study biology.
Mr. Levin, showing you Exhibit 2. Do you recognize the woman in this photo?
Yeah, that's Jess. That's Jessica Marks.
The plaintiff offers Exhibit 2.
I assume there's no objection. We discussed this earlier. Is that correct, defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Exhibit 2 is admitted into evidence.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I apologize, Your Honor. Mr. Levin, how did you know Jessica Marks?
She was my best friend for ever since middle school. People always thought we were dating, but we were just really good friends.
When did you last see Miss Marks?
On the night of March 24th, 2019, she crashed her car and she died that night.
Sorry for your loss, Mr. Levin. If it's all right, I want to talk about what happened on March 24th, 2019. When did you
Yes,
first
sir.
see Miss Marks that night?
Well, I met her at her Airbnb that night. I think it was around 8 p.m.
Did you and Miss Marks have any plans for that evening?
Yes, we were going to go out to a bar together.
Where were you planning to go?
Sunny's rooftop bar.
Did you end up going to Sonny's rooftop bar?
Yes, as much as I regret it now, yes.
I want to talk about what happened at Sonny's rooftop bar. What time did you get there?
Around 9 p.m.
Do you remember what time you left?
Yeah, around 11:45 that night.
So from 9 to 11:45 that night, who was serving?
The bar's owner, Sunny Mehta.
Did either you or Miss Marks order drinks from the bartender?
Yes, we both did.
Mr. McGaugh, can we get Exhibit 17? Do you recognize this?
Yes, sir, that's my receipt from the night of March 24th.
Does it look to be fair and accurate?
Yeah.
The plaintiff offers Exhibit 17.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 17 is admitted into evidence.
Mr. Levin, how many of the drinks on this receipt did you have?
Well, from top to bottom, that decoy red blend was a bottle of wine. I just had one glass of that. And then I had the draft beer and one of those green tea shots.
How many drinks did Miss Marks have?
Well, she had everything else on here. She had almost a full bottle of wine minus that glass. She had 3 White Claws. She had the can of IPA, and she had the green tea shot special, one of them.
I want to talk about how Miss Marks was acting after having those drinks. Mr. McGaugh, could we get Exhibit 10? Do you recognize this?
Yes, that's the last video I ever took of Jessica.
Does the video look like it's been changed or altered since you took it?
No.
The plaintiff offers Exhibit 10.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Mr. McGaugh,
Exhibit 10 is, we'll admit Exhibit 10.
Mr. McGaugh, could we play this exhibit?
Hi everyone, Morgan and I are in Hollywood. We're at a bar. It's kind of like a Philly bar, except everything is really, really expensive. $10 for a seltzer. And everyone here wants to be a model or an actress. I'd like to thank the Academy. Mom and Dad, you've inspired me. Okay, well, go big or go home.
Mr. Levin, was Jessica acting like that just for the video or throughout the whole night?
No, she was like that the entire time we were at the bar.
I want to talk about whether or not Jessica Marks was showing signs of intoxication at the bar. Mr. Levin, did she seem drunk to you?
Yes.
What makes you say that?
Well, I mean, you can see in the video, she's slurring her words. She's having trouble with her balance. And then even before this video, when we walked in the bar, she was already showing symptoms. She was slurring her speech. She was speaking really loudly. Her eyes were bloodshot, and I just remember her smelling like alcohol.
Mr. Levin, you said that she was having trouble with her balance. Do you remember any other times where that happened?
Yeah, at one point we were going downstairs together, and she fell. She tripped down the stairs, and if she didn't catch herself on the bar's owner, Sunny Mehta, she would have fallen on the ground.
Who all was there when she tripped on the stairs?
Me, her, Sunny, and then the bartender, Frankfurt.
When Miss Marks tripped on the stairs in front of the bartenders, did they say anything?
Yeah, Sunny looked over to Frankfurt and said, "Whoa, Frankfurt, we might need to cut this one off.
Mr. Levin, did they cut Jessica off?
No, they just kept serving us and serving her that whole night.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Levin, I'd like to begin by saying I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to talk about how Miss Marks appeared right before she entered Sunny's. You just mentioned that just now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Before she entered Sunny's bar, Miss Marks had 1 to 2 drinks open.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. Could you repeat that, please?
Yes, Mr. Levin. Before Miss Marks went to Sunny's bar, she had 1 to 2 glasses of wine.
Yes, we each had 1 and she maybe had 2.
And Miss Marks decided to take you both to Sunny's bar, right?
Yes, and I felt comfortable being in the car with her because she seemed fine in the car.
But she still had some drinks before she drove you to Sunny's, didn't she?
Yes.
And when you went to Sunny's bar, Miss Marks ordered a few more drinks, didn't she?
Yeah, she was ordered and served multiple other drinks.
Miss Marks ordered another glass of wine, didn't she?
Yes.
3 White Claws,
Yes.
Captain and Coke.
Yeah, it was a mixed drink that she got.
Miss Marks chose to order a green tea shot, right?
Yeah, we had those together. That was one of the last things I did with her.
Mr. Levin, this totals up to about 6 drinks that Miss Marks ordered, correct?
That sounds about right, yes.
Now, let's talk about a time frame earlier than March 24th, 2019. Miss Marks decided to visit you in LA for spring break, right?
Yeah, I remember that time.
She visited you on March 18th.
It was going to be a Monday to Monday trip.
And Miss Marks and you both went out to several restaurants throughout the Monday to Monday trip, right?
Yes.
You had drinks at those restaurants, didn't you?
Yeah.
On Monday, you had drinks at Anna's Grilled Cheese.
Yes.
On Tuesday, you went to Tony's Taps and had a couple drinks, didn't you?
Yes. Yes.
Wednesday, you went to 2 different places, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. May I explain?
Yes, go ahead.
Your Honor, it's not relevant to the facts at issue in today's case, whether or not Ms. Marks and Mr. Levin had drinks on days before March 24, 2019. We're here to talk about whether or not Sunny's Rooftop Bar and Jessica Marks were negligent on March 24, 2019, not what happened before.
Defense response?
Yes, Your Honor. This line of questioning is relevant as it will help establish the fact that Mr. Levin and Ms. Marks would drink at several bars and drive willingly. She would drink and drive. It helps prove and support the defense's affirmative defense of comparative fault and put into perspective the fatal choices that Ms. Marks made that caused her own death. This is relevant to proving the defense's affirmative defense and why Ms. Marks acted on March 24, 2019.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yes, go ahead.
In light of opposing counsel's argument, I'd actually change my objection to character evidence. They're clearly seeking to establish propensity, that because Jessica Marks was reckless and chose to drink underage in the weeks leading up to the day, she's more likely to have done so on March 24, 2019. That's character evidence, and under Rule 404, it's not permitted.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes.
Your Honor, we're offering this line of questioning under Rule 404B2 to show that Ms. Marks had intent to drink and drive. We're not offering this to show the propensity that Ms. Marks acted like this on earlier days than March 24th, but to show that she had the intention and she would make choices to drink and drive willingly.
I'm going to overrule the objection. I'm going to give the defense some leeway here to try and connect the dots.
Yes,
Go
Your Honor.
ahead.
Mr. Levin, you went and had drinks on Wednesday to 2 different restaurants, didn't you?
Yes, that sounds right.
You went to Disneyland?
Yeah, we did.
And then you had drinks at Harper's.
Yes.
You went to several other restaurants after, didn't you?
That sounds right, yeah.
Every time, Miss Marks would have around 1 to 2 glasses of wine, wouldn't she?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And after having wine, after having drinks, Miss Marks would drive to and from each restaurant, wouldn't she?
Well, yes, but like I said a few minutes ago, I felt comfortable with her because I've seen her drunk before. I've known her since middle school, and you know, I can tell when I feel safe with her, and I felt safe with her that whole week up until March 24th when she was trying to get home that night.
Mr. Levin, my question wasn't whether you felt comfortable driving with Miss Marks. My question was that Miss Marks would willingly drive after she had a couple drinks.
I'm sorry, I thought I answered the question. Yes, she did drive.
Now let's go back to March 24th, 2019. Jessica was planning to drive herself home that night, wasn't she?
Yeah, I think so.
And you planned to take an Uber, didn't you?
Well, when I saw the state that Jessica was in leaving the bar, I didn't feel comfortable. She seemed so obviously drunk to me that I didn't feel comfortable. So that's when I got the Uber.
And you told Miss Marks about your uncomfortableness, didn't you?
Yes, I should have been more forceful with her. I should have made her get in the Uber with me, but I guess I just thought she'd be okay.
And Miss Marks responded to you by saying, I've gotten pretty used to driving after midnight, didn't she?
Yeah, again, I mean, she seemed so drunk to me, but I couldn't convince her to come with me.
Miss Marks never chose to get an Uber after her big night, did she?
If you mean on March 24th, then no, I got the Uber that night.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Do we have any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Levin, opposing counsel asked you about how many drinks Jessica Marks had at the Airbnb and how many she had at Sunny's rooftop bars. I just want to be very clear. How many did she have at the Airbnb?
1, maybe 2.
How many did Sunny's rooftop bar serve?
6 to 7 drinks in addition to an almost full bottle of wine.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Can this witness be excused?
Bar and recross, Your Honor, yes.
Any recross, counsel?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Levin, you are excused.
Thank you, ma'am.
Does the plaintiff have anything further at this point?
Yes, Your Honor. Before we close our case in chief, we'd just like to read 2 portions of a pre-admit exhibit onto the record. For reference,
Before you start, can I get a time check from whoever's keeping time? How much time does he have left?
On which portion, Your Honor?
Plaintiff.
Which portion of the plaintiff's case in chief? Each section has a different time limit.
Are there different time limits? I assume that direct and redirect are the same. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, what does he have left on his direct/redirect?
I have 23 seconds remaining for direct and redirect examination, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
yes, Your Honor. In California, it is illegal to drive with a BAC of 0.08 and illegal for someone younger than 21 to drive with a BAC of 0.01. Thank you, Mr. McGaw. You can take that down. And with that, Your Honor, we rest our case in chief.
Thank you, counsel. Is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Sunny Mehta to the stand. Good afternoon, Mr. Mehta. Please introduce yourself to the jury.
The name's Sunny Mehta. Mehta.
What do you do for a living?
Well, you see, right now I'm still trying to figure all that out. I sold my bar, Sunny's Rooftop Bar, because we had a little incident.
Do you know why you're here today?
Yeah, Jessica Marks, she's dead. She was drinking at my bar, and I guess I'm being blamed for it today. Of course, it wasn't my fault, but that's why I'm here.
What date did Miss Marks walk into your bar?
It was March 24th, 2019.
Throughout the whole course of the night of March 24th, 2019, did Miss Marks ever appear to look intoxicated to you?
No, I went through a lot of training in order to detect that, and based off my observations, I could tell you she didn't seem intoxicated to me.
Would you have served her if she looked intoxicated?
Trust me, I'm a businessman. I'm a professional guy. If she seemed intoxicated, she wouldn't be served any drinks at my bar. You could believe that.
Do you have any policies at Sunny's bar to prevent over-serving customers?
Yes, we do. Anytime that I can tell, or if any of my employees can tell that someone looks like they're reaching that point of being intoxicated, we cut them off. We usually let them know in a polite way, hey, I think you had a little too much.
Do your employees go over any training?
Yes, we do. Along with the training provided by California State, for anyone working at a bar, we have to go through the responsible beverage service course and also give them on-job training.
What does that course cover?
Now, you see, the responsible beverage training course covers essentially everything about alcohol and how it affects an individual that's drinking it. It also teaches us to observe when someone that drinks any alcohol at our bar is intoxicated and just some signs to look for.
What are some of the signs to look for in an obviously intoxicated person?
Yes, so there's definitely a whole lot, but just a few of them. There's vacant gaze, watery eyes, stumbling, loss of balance. That all ties into passing out. We also have flushed cheeks. We have red or bloodshot eyes. The list really goes on. There's just anything acting out of the norm.
Now, Mr. Mehta, I'd like to shift our attention to the series of events that occurred on March 24th, 2019. Do you remember serving Mr. Levin and Miss Marks?
Yes, I do. I remember serving them. It seemed like they're having a pretty good time.
How many times did you interact with them?
I delivered around 5 rounds of drinks to their table, so I guess I interacted with them around 8 to 10 times that night. I had plenty of time to observe them.
And how long were they at your bar for that night?
This is all 2 years ago, but if I was to give you an estimate, a pretty in detail estimate would probably be 2 hours, 15 minutes to 2.5 hours, around that.
And how did you remember that?
Well, you see, one, I was running the bar at the time. I was the bar owner. And two, we have receipts. We keep a receipt of everyone and their entire tab with the time on it too.
Your Honor, I'd now like to screen share Exhibit 17, which has previously been admitted into evidence. Now,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mehta, were these all of the drinks that Ms. Marks and Mr. Levin ordered on March 24, 2019?
It does look a tad bit blurry, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they ordered. I could really read the words over there.
What kind of drinks did Ms. Marks and Mr. Levin order?
So it says here they had a Declar Red Blend, which is a bottle of wine. They had they ordered 3 White Claws, a Ballast Point IPA draft, which is a can of beer. Then they had or actually that's the pint of beer because the can is the Sierra Nevada IPA can. Then we have 2 green tea shot specials.
How much did Ms. Marks and Mr. Levin each order?
They ordered all these drinks together. I don't remember exactly how much each of them had since I wasn't there to observe it, but I mean, it was 2 of them. Maybe they split the drinks in half.
Now, we talked about how Jessica Marks appeared to you on March 24th, but how did Morgan appear?
You see, Morgan's a completely different story. Jessica Marks seemed sober. She was fine, just an outgoing girl. Morgan is where it got a little different. You see, he was getting a little tipsy. He definitely wasn't to the point of intoxication where I needed to cut him off, but Mr. Levin was really getting there a little bit.
And while Ms. Marks was at your bar, did you ever see her stumble on the stairs?
I'm sorry if Miss Marks stumbled on my stairs. I don't remember that happening.
Did you see anyone else stumble on your stairs?
Yeah, if you meant Mr. Levin, he stumbled on the stairs, but Marks was totally fine. He stumbled into me. He was definitely getting a little tipsy. I didn't need to cut him off yet though because he wasn't getting too bad.
Did you know how Miss Marks was planning to get home that night?
Yeah, Miss Marks was planning on driving. I was pretty relieved, if I may say so myself, because she seemed like the responsible, sober one out of the 2. So that made me a little more happy.
And when Miss Marks, were you okay with Miss Marks leaving to go drive? I'm sorry, my apologies. Were you at all ever concerned that Miss Marks would be driving home?
No, definitely not. Like I said before, Miss Marks seemed like the responsible friend out of the 2. She was the sober one that night, or at least she was closest to sober, because Mr. Levin, God forbid, if he was driving, I don't even want to think about what would have happened. So I'm happy that Jessica was driving that night, or at least I was at the time.
And when Miss Marks left your bar, did she at all look intoxicated to you?
No, Miss Marks didn't look intoxicated.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination, Mr. Mueller.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Mehta.
Good afternoon. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty fine myself.
Mr. Mehta, it's your claim that Jessica Marks never looked intoxicated when she left your bar, right?
Yeah, she wasn't obviously intoxicated like I've been hearing so much. I'm happy she was driving that night, or at least at the time I was.
In fact, it's your claim that Jessica Marks looked just as sober walking out of your bar as she did when she came in, right?
Well, you see, when she was walking out of the bar, obviously after having drinks in your system, you're not going to look the same as you are walking into the bar, but she definitely wasn't drunk.
So, Mr. Mehta, that's a yes to my question. She looked just as sober walking out of your bar as she did when she came in?
She looked sober walking into my bar, and she looked a little sober walking out of the bar. So I guess that's a yes.
Let's explore those claims. Now, you served Jessica Marks's table for almost 3 hours, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. It was around 2.5 hours, maybe 2 hours, 15 minutes. I wasn't there the entire time, though, of course.
You served them almost $100 worth of alcohol, right?
I believe it was $149.50, but yeah, that was about it.
You served 2 beers,
Yeah, there was one can of beer, and then there was a pint of beer.
2 shots,
Yep, 2 green tea special shots. Everyone loves those.
3 cans of hard seltzer,
Yeah, those White Claw stuffs are so soft.
and an entire bottle of wine.
Yeah,
You know that Jessica Marks ordered half of those drinks, right?
no, I don't know that. They both ordered the drinks together. I didn't really sit there and watch as Miss Marks was having her drinks. That would have been a little awkward. They might have thought it was a red flag, but I know they ordered the drinks together. I don't know how many each of them had, though, of course. Sorry about that.
Mr. Mehta, it's your testimony that they weren't ordering the same amount of drinks each time you went up to them?
They were ordering their drinks together, is what I said. I didn't say that they weren't ordering drinks when I went up to them.
Mr. McGaugh, can we get the witness's deposition on the screen? And can we go to page 22, line 16? Mr. Mehta, do you see where it says, I believe they were ordering the same number? They were each ordering during each round of drinks.
Yep, that's exactly what I just told you. They were both ordering drinks that time. There's nothing different what I just said.
So, Mr. Mehta, it's your claim to this jury that after serving all those drinks in just a couple hours, Jessica Marks didn't look intoxicated walking out of your bar?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mueller, I think we might be not on the same page here. Jessica Marks didn't drink all those drinks that were on her receipt. That's just the drinks they ordered. I don't know exactly what drinks Jessica Marks had. I definitely didn't watch her. That would have been a little weird.
Mr. Mehta, that wasn't my question. After serving all those drinks, it's your claim that she didn't look intoxicated, right?
Yeah, I didn't see her have any drinks, so I can't really tell you how much she had, but she didn't look intoxicated.
Okay, Mr. Mehta, let's talk about whether there's evidence that she wasn't sober by the end of the night. And you know what blood alcohol content, or BAC, is, right?
Yeah, I had to learn all about it in my training before I got the job or before I owned the bar.
It's a measurement of how much alcohol a person has in their system.
Yep, and it relates to how much alcohol you drink, a lot of different factors like height, weight, things like that. Gender, of course.
Your Honor, let the record reflect we're displaying Exhibit 22. It's already in evidence. Mr. Mehta, you know that Ms. Marks's BAC was tested after the crash?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to look at this for a second. Oh, yeah, I guess so. It seems like the word toxicology is there, so I'm not going to question you.
You know that her BAC was 0.16?
I mean, it says that on the report. I'm not going to make any claims here, but that's what I read right here. Yeah.
Mr. Mehta, you were shown this in your deposition. You agreed that she had a BAC of 0.16.
I agreed that that's what's on the paper. I didn't do my own testing, of course, but if that's what's there, trust me, I believe you, sir.
Okay. And as the owner of a bar, you know that 0.16, that's 16 times the legal limit for a minor, right?
Yes, a minor should only have 0.01 BAC in their system, or at least they shouldn't.
Finally, I want to circle back to your claim that Jessica Marks didn't look intoxicated when she left your bar. Mr. McGaugh, can we get Exhibit 20? This is a map of the area outside your bar, right?
I'm just gonna have to look at this real quick. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, it looks like my bar is in pink, and we got the crash site. I think that looks about accurate. That should be the surrounding area.
Plaintiff offers Exhibit 20.
Any objection, defense?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 20 is admitted.
Mr. Mehta, you can see on the left side that purple marker, right?
Yeah, I can't see the key anymore, but I think before that said that was my bar. And I know that because my bar is besides Wells Fargo. So yeah, I think that's it.
And the yellow marker on the right, that's where Jessica Marks crashed, right?
I mean, that's what the key said, I'm pretty sure. I obviously wasn't in the car with her, so I don't know the exact centimeter and inch, but I'm going to take your word for it. I think that's about right.
Well, when you drove home that night, you saw a car in that ravine, right?
Yeah, I thought someone had a pretty unfortunate accident.
Mr. Mehta, Jessica Marks crashed on the road just outside your bar, right?
That's definitely not just outside my bar. If you thought it was just outside my bar, probably would have been on that mark that says Malibu Village, Malibu Kitchen, or the Shell gas station at most. That's not right beside my bar. That's actually crossing an entire river.
All right, Mr. Mehta, she crashed on the Pacific Coast Highway.
Yeah, yes, she did. That's right where it was.
She crashed the night that you served her drinks at your bar.
Yeah, I served her drinks and she crashed the same night. There's really no correlation though.
So that's a yes to my question, Mr. Mehta.
Yeah, that's a yes to your question. They happened the same night.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you, counsel. Redirect, Ms. Ahmad or Ahmed.
No redirect, Your Honor.
Can this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
You are excused, Mr. Mehta.
Thank you, Your Honor.
With that, defense rests its case in chief.
Thank you. Anything further from the plaintiff before we get to closing arguments?
Not from the plaintiff, Your Honor.
All right, we're now going to go to closing arguments from each of the parties. I suggest that people go back to the speaker view on their Zooms so that we can see just the person who's speaking. Plaintiff, you are free to start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, members of the jury. They knew she was drunk, but they kept serving drinks. 16 times the legal limit. On March 24th, 2019, when Jessica Marks stumbled out of the defendant's bar, the amount of alcohol in her system was 16 times the legal limit for her age. 16 times. Defense, they tried to tell you that Jessica Marks just didn't look intoxicated when she walked out of their bar. But a 19-year-old girl who was at that bar for as long as she was, who was served as many drinks as she was, who had a blood alcohol content 16 times the legal limit, is going to look drunk, whether they deny it or not. They knew she was drunk, but they kept serving drinks. Of course, we couldn't just tell you that. We had to prove it. We had to prove our claim of wrongful death by a preponderance of the evidence, meaning more likely than not. Almost everything we had to prove went undisputed. There's no dispute that Jessica Marks was a minor. All that's left for us to prove is that Jessica Marks was served alcohol when she was obviously intoxicated, and that their decision to serve her played a substantial role in causing her death. We met our burden. We met our burden by proving 3 simple facts. And I want to go through them one at a time. Fact number 1, Jessica Marks was intoxicated at the bar. Members of the jury, Morgan Levin told us that Jessica Marks was drunk. She told us that the whole night she had signs of intoxication, bloodshot eyes, slurred speech. She was stumbling around. But you didn't just have to take Mr. Levin's word for it. We showed you that video of Miss Marks. Members of the jury, this video is absolutely crucial to our understanding of what happened that night. This case is about how Miss Marks was acting at the bar. Was she drunk or was she sober? We don't have to guess. We don't have to speculate about how she was acting because we literally have a video from that night. We can see for ourselves that she was obviously intoxicated. Which brings us to fact number 2. The defendant saw that Jessica Marks was intoxicated. Sonny Mehta took the stand and swore up and down that even after serving 2 beers, 2 shots, 3 cans of hard seltzer, and an entire bottle of wine, Jessica Marks didn't look drunk when she left the bar. But members of the jury, we know that's not true. And we know it's not true because of Sonny Mehta's own words. We might need to cut this one off. These aren't the words of a bartender that had no idea their customer was drunk. They're the words of a bartender that knew, still didn't do anything. And that brings us to fact number 3. Despite knowing that Jessica Marks was drunk, they kept serving her drinks. First off, we acknowledge that the defense is claiming they didn't see signs of intoxication in Miss Marks. But here's where it's so important to understand our burden of proof. We don't have to show you a confession from the bartenders saying that they did serve her when she was intoxicated, because they're never going to admit they overserved a minor. We just have to prove it's more likely true than not that they did. So what's more likely? That after being there for 3 hours, after ordering all those drinks, after seeing how she was acting in the video with a blood alcohol content of 16 times the legal limit, she didn't look drunk? Or is it more likely that she did? Where's the jury? I'll submit to you that it's far more likely she would have looked drunk. This is the jury verdict form. Because we've proven those 3 facts, for question 1, which asks if we met our burden of proof, you can check the box for yes. Now the defense, they tried to point the finger at Jessica Marks. They said it was her decisions that caused her death. They've talked a lot about those 4 fatal choices. But their argument that it was her actions that caused her death, it just misses the point. If the bartenders did their job, if the bartenders stopped serving Jessica Marks the second that she started showing signs of intoxication, she could choose to drive home and she would get back safe. Her choices only became fatal because of what this defendant did. So for question 2 on the verdict form, which asks if the defense met their burden, you can check the box for no. Members of the jury, what makes this case so tragic isn't just what happened to Jessica Marks. It's how easily the defendant could have stopped. All they had to do was stop serving Jessica Marks when she started showing signs of intoxication. But they didn't. They knew she was drunk. They kept serving drinks, and that caused her to crash. Find them liable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Ms. Ahmed, do you have a closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed when you're ready.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. Now, Mr. Mueller just told you that they knew Jessica was drunk and they kept serving her drinks. But you heard from Mr. Mehta today that he never saw, let alone thought, that Jessica Marks was intoxicated. and that Mr. Mehta never once denied Miss Marks the choice to continue ordering drinks. 4 fatal choices. It took 4 fatal choices. Action was interrupted.
Yes, we lost you for a few seconds. You were at 4 fatal choices.
My apologies. Would you like me to start again? Or pick up where I left off?
I think you can pick up where you left off if you recall where you were.
Yes, Your Honor. It took 4 fatal choices for Miss Marks to lose her life. Let's walk through each and every one of those fatal choices. You heard today that Miss Marks made the fatal choice to drink before she went to Sunny's bar. She made the fatal choice to drive while she was intoxicated to Sunny's bar. She made the fatal choice to order 6 drinks at Sunny's bar. That she made the final fatal choice to get into her car and drive home after she had 6 drinks. You heard from Mr. Levin, you heard from Mr. Levin, that he tried to stop Miss Marks from getting behind the wheel. He tried to get Miss Marks to join him in his Uber. Miss Marks told him, "I've gotten pretty good at driving after a big night." Members of the jury, those aren't the words from someone who's unconscious or senseless. Those are the words of someone who knew exactly what situation they put themselves in. The plaintiff had the burden to prove to you today, by preponderance of the evidence, 3 things. That Jessica Marks was a minor, that Jessica Marks exhibited obvious signs of intoxication, and that the alcohol she was served was a substantial factor in her death. You agree with the plaintiff that the fact that Jessica Marks was a minor is undisputed. But the plaintiff has failed to prove the other 2 elements of their wrongful death claim. Let's walk through the evidence that the plaintiff presented to you today. They showed you Exhibit 10. But members of the jury, what do we know about Exhibit 10? We don't know the context at which it was taken. We don't know if Jessica Marks was asked to act in a certain way before she took that video. We don't know if that was just Jessica Marks expressing herself, her fun and positive personality. But we know that Mr. Mehta never saw Miss Marks act in that way throughout the whole night. That he never saw this video being filmed. That he never saw Miss Marks show any signs of intoxication. Now, the plaintiff also tried to prove that Jessica Marks stumbled and that Mr. Mehta saw. You heard Mr. Mehta today that he never saw Miss Marks stumble. He only saw Miss Levin. And that if he saw her stumble or show any signs of intoxication, he would have cut her off. It's a policy at his establishment to cut customers off when they show signs of intoxication. The plaintiff has failed to meet their. However, if you still feel that the plaintiff met their burden, then you must consider the defense's affirmative defense of comparative fault. That means you must decide whether or not Jessica Marks's death was a result of her own negligence. We prove that to you today. Remember Jessica Marks's 4 fatal choices. 1, she chose to drink before she drove to Sunny's bar. That she drove willingly, knowing that she drank. She went to Sunny's bar and drank 6 additional drinks, and that she decided to go home while she was drunk. We also heard today that Ms. Marks visited Mr. Levin from March 18th to March 23rd. That she had several drinks with each visit, and that she would drive to and from the restaurants after drinking. Ms. Marks showed a pattern of drinking and driving. She could have died on the night of Monday. She could have died Tuesday or Wednesday. But the 4 fatal choices that she made on March 24, 2019 cost her her life. Members of the jury, we understand. We know it's hard to blame someone who had their whole life ahead of them for their own death. But we cannot shift the responsibility onto someone who did not make the same 4 fatal choices that Ms. Marks did. That's why we ask that you find Sunny's Rooftop Bar not liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Mueller, do you have any rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor, but before I proceed, could I just ask my second chair how much time I have?
Certainly.
I have a record of 33 seconds remaining for closing arguments for plaintiff.
Thank you. Members of the jury, the defense just came before you and tried to explain away the evidence. But there are pieces of evidence that they have no explanation for. The video we saw of Jessica Marks that was taken that night, her blood alcohol content, the amount of drinks that they served her. Members of the jury, the totality of the evidence shows the defendant knew she was drunk. Find them liable.
Thank you, counsel. All right, jurors, you need to complete your ballots and hit the submit button on the bottom. And then as soon as we get a notification that everybody's ballots are in, we will come back and make a few comments.
This is Frankfurt, your bailiff. We can start comments now. Ballots should be in.
That sounds good. Would either of my jurors like to start off?
I can start. So my name is Eric Strauss. I am a high school coach from Minnesota, and I thought this round was very good. I was impressed by all the competitors. You guys put a lot of work into this, I can tell, and you should be very proud of yourselves for putting so much work, especially in these tough times. This whole school year has been tough on everybody. And I know for a lot of you, this is probably your third or fourth case that you've put a lot of effort into during these tough times. So that's to be commended. I thought that probably the highlight of this round was I thought that you guys had really good demonstratives and really good presentation of the evidence. I think it was pretty clear on both sides what your theory of the case was, and I thought everybody did just a really good job. Good luck in your future rounds.
Thank you, Mr. Strauss. Who is my next juror?
That'd be me. So
Okay.
I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. I've done this, I guess, for a little more than a decade. You guys were great. I really enjoyed it. So, one of the high points for me was just how well you developed your story and got your theme put in there. The two things that people often don't remember everything that goes on, but the two things they do remember are the intense moments and the last thing that you're saying that you emphasize. So I thought you guys did a great job hitting on your points and making sure that came across. So wish you guys well in the rest of the tournament. Thanks.
I'm going to echo what everybody else said. I think that you were all amazing, extraordinarily articulate, knew your case well. Mr. Mueller, I thought you, and I put this on my comments, I thought you really had a nice use of the elements that were coming up and telling me what your witness was going to testify to, because as a juror, then I'm listening for that. By the same token, Ms. Ahmed, you gave me a nice summary of the facts from your standpoint, which obviously were different than the facts that the plaintiff was going to give me. Your witnesses were both excellent. The fellow playing Mr. Levin, appropriately emotional and passionate, believable. The bar owner was very much a bar owner. My only comment for him would be that although he didn't, or says he didn't know she was drunk, this is a serious allegation against your bar. And I think a few of the answers were a little bit too flip for us to really accept his credibility. I'll put it that way. But otherwise, you guys were great. You're done with round 2, on to the next. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all the judges who judged this trial. It was amazing, and you guys take time out of your day to do this. I really appreciate it, and thank you to Mr. Mueller for being an amazing competitor. It was a pleasure competing against you.
You were excellent. That was a great round.
By the way, Miss Ahmed, I was very impressed with the way that you recomposed yourself after you lost your Zoom, because we're not always so good at doing that. So congrats. Thank you.